Hello, I'm John Hagelin, Minister of Science and Technology of the global country of world peace. Welcome to this conference on Maharshi Vedic Organic Agriculture, the fifth of 6 extraordinary conferences that have been broadcast this week from the global financial capital of New York, located here at 70 Broad Street in the center of the financial capital of the world. These conferences have explored the application of total knowledge, the discovery of the unified field, and the Vedic science and technology of the unified field to literally reconstruct the world. That means rebuild the world physically using Maharshi Vedic architecture, which means building in harmony with natural law to promote maximum support of nature, good fortune, health, and success of the inhabitants of those buildings, and reconstructing all the homes, office buildings, and government buildings of the world to be fully life-supporting, fully health-promoting, fully fortune-creating based upon the ancient and rigorously founded science of architecture in harmony with natural law. Subsequent conferences explored the Vedic science of defense, which is unified field-based, preventative defense that can raise any nation, no matter how small, to invincibility on a solid scientific basis. We've explored the application of the most complete science of healthcare, Maharshi Vedic medicine, which is unified field-based medicine for the prevention of disease and the promotion of health and longevity and immortality through the application of total natural law to the field of health. We're exploring today the field of agriculture and unified field-based agriculture. That means agriculture based upon the most complete scientific understanding of the laws of nature governing agriculture and indeed governing the whole universe. Maharshi Vedic organic agriculture is the most complete in modern science of organic agriculture. The word organic agriculture is already well known. Organic agriculture means agriculture free from the poisonous residues of chemical fertilizers, chemical pesticides, and other chemical inputs that destroy the holistic and the completely healthy and life-nourishing nature of agriculture in the world today. And now that it's become widely known, the deleterious effects of chemicals and chemically grown foods on human health, human vitality, even human brain development, there has been a worldwide move towards healthier food, towards organically grown food, which means food free of the dangerous chemical residues of chemical agriculture. Until now, organic agriculture has been a developing science, really, rather primitive and incomplete. Until now, Maharshi Vedic agriculture is the complete science of agriculture based upon total knowledge of natural law. Maharshi Vedic organic agriculture incorporates into organic agriculture the science and technology of Ved. That means the science and technology of the unified field. And to understand the significance of this Vedic aspect of Vedic organic agriculture and the significance of the Vedic sounds that are employed in Vedic organic agriculture, it is important to understand what Veda is and the significance of these Vedic sounds. And to understand what Veda is, it is important to understand the latest scientific understanding of the universe. The most fundamental laws of nature uncovered by modern science, and on the basis of this most complete and up-to-date understanding of the universe, then Veda is completely understood. And the significance of the Vedic sounds also becomes completely understood. So, let us begin with a brief review of the structure of the universe, most up-to-date understanding of natural law. Through modern science, And on that basis, again, we will have the framework for the complete and profound understanding of the true significance of Veda. The Vedic knowledge has been really badly misunderstood throughout the world. The Vedic knowledge is known to be a highly significant knowledge by everyone on earth, particularly those from the land of the Veda, from India, who know the significance of the Vedic texts. But the nature of that significance, what that significance truly is, has been really missing from the world, has not been understood until His Holiness Maharshi Mahesh Yogi, world's foremost Vedic scholar and foremost scientist of consciousness, revived the Vedic wisdom in its completeness and complete practical effectiveness. That means complete with technologies of the Vedic science. And now the significance of the Veda and Vedic technologies is understood through the pioneering work of Maharshi Mahesh Yogi. We will understand the significance of Veda in its application to agriculture today by taking a look first at what modern science has revealed about the nature of the universe. Modern science, through its empirical means of gaining knowledge, has systematically probed deeper levels of nature's functioning, finer levels of intelligence in nature at microscopic scales. And this chart shows the hierarchical structure of natural law from fundamental unity at the foundation of the universe, shown at the bottom of this chart, to surface diversity, the increasingly complex levels of nature's functioning at macroscopic scales. Beginning at the top of the chart, at the classical or macroscopic world of observable physics, modern science has probed the molecular, atomic, nuclear, and subnuclear levels at deeper levels of this chart. And at every level, surface complexity, surface diversity gives way to fundamental simplicity at increasingly unified levels of nature's functioning. And this inward exploration of deeper levels of natural law at the nuclear and subnuclear levels has culminated in the discovery of the unified field, a completely holistic level of natural law, the unified level of natural law at the basis of all the diversified streams of natural law governing the universe at every level. So modern science has ultimately discovered that the world, though superficially complex, is fundamentally simple. That the universe, while superficially diverse, is fundamentally unified. And the equations of quantum physics describe this fundamental unity at the basis of all diversity. That super unified level of nature's functioning is aptly termed the constitution of the universe, because this unified dynamics, self-interacting dynamics of the unified field, is the foundation of all the laws of nature, as we have seen graphically in the previous chart, and as we see numerically, algebraically in the present chart, which shows at the top this compact mathematical expression of total knowledge, this compact mathematical description of the self-interacting dynamics of the unified field in what is called the Lagrangian of the E8 cross E8 heterotic superstring field. That is, the Lagrangian or formula of the unified field at the basis of all diversified levels of nature's functioning. Indeed, this chart shows the sequential emergence, that means stage by stage emergence, of increasingly diversified levels of natural law from their unified source in the Lagrangian of the superstring, beginning with the emergence of the second formula that comprises the bottom of this page, which is the formula for grand unification, or the n equals 1 locally supersymmetric grand unified level, in which gravity is no longer united with the other three forces, thus it is not the super unified level of the unified field, but the first stage of emergence of the unified field from the fundamental field of unity. In this way, rigorously, all the laws of nature governing the diversified universe sequentially emerge rigorously, mathematically, from the unified field, and thus the unified field, which is really the fruit of 50 years of advanced research in quantum gravity theory, the unified field provides the first truly rigorous mathematical foundation for all of physics and all the physical sciences. Long-standing problems, for example, ultraviolet divergences and mathematical anomalies of quantum field theory, which become particularly acute in the case of quantum gravity. All these previously insurmountable mathematical obstacles have been resolved with the discovery of the unified field, which again provides a absolutely rigorous, self-consistent mathematical foundation for the whole of physics. So all of physics, all the fundamental particles and forces of nature, the so-called building blocks of material creation, emerge from the unified field and can be systematically derived from the unified field. And this is such a remarkable discovery, I'd like to just show in a little more detail this systematic emergence because it's important for understanding the nature of the unified field and hence the nature of Veda, and hence the importance of the Vedic language and the importance of the Vedic sounds that are fundamental to Vedic organic agriculture. This chart is called the Fock-space representation equation, and it's really an extraordinary mathematical scientific breakthrough because this equation, which shows the superstring action, that's the self-interacting dynamics of unity, as a perturbative sum over all possible world sheet topologies, from this mathematical expression we explicitly see all the fundamental forces and particles of nature, the building blocks of the material universe, we explicitly see here as the vibrational modes of the unified field. The fundamental forces and particles of nature that fill the universe are just the reverberant frequencies, so-called energy eigenmodes, of the unified field. That means the building blocks of creation, and indeed the entire creation, are nothing but the reverberations of the unified field, as explicitly shown in this formula. Now I want to explain this dynamics a little bit more carefully because it's very important in the understanding of the nature of Veda, the unified field, and the distinction between what we could call Veda and Vishva, between the unified field on the abstract transcendental level of physics and its expressed modes as the particles and forces that fill the universe. So what we essentially have in the unified field is what really constitutes as if an ocean of existence. But this ocean of existence has the capacity to rise in waves of vibration. These vibrational modes of the field, called the energy eigenmodes of the field, are identified as the fundamental particles and forces that constitute the expressed universe. So the enumeration of the fundamental frequencies of this abstract, all-pervading unified field is of paramount importance to physics because the enumeration of these vibrational modes will allow us to enumerate the fundamental particles and forces, which are just associated with these different vibrational modes. So it's of fundamental importance in understanding the physical universe to understand the fundamental frequencies or vibrational modes of the unified field. Now, one of the most amazing discoveries of the last decade of theoretical physics and unified field theory is that these vibrational modes of this abstract unified field are algebraically identical to the vibrational modes of a string. In particular, a relativistic quantized elastic loop. That is, topographically and geometrically, the structure of the unified field is concretely expressed in the structure of a vibrating loop. So let us look at the nature of the vibrations of a loop, and we will understand the origin of the elementary particles, which are nothing but the vibrational frequencies of a loop, or, more strictly speaking, the vibrational modes of the unified field. Now, to understand that well, we have to just look for an instant at the physics of a string or an elastic rope, shown, for example, in this graph. This graph shows a stretched rope, stretched between two walls, fixed at its endpoints, vibrating up and down in its various reverberant frequencies. And first, just take a look that there's not just one vibrational frequency of a string. This could be a guitar string. It has its fundamental frequency. For example, the key of E is the bass tone of a guitar string. But it also has its overtones, its so-called harmonics. And these overtones are multiples of the fundamental frequency, with half the wavelength, a quarter of the wavelength, a third the wavelength, a fifth the wavelength, all possible fractions of the wavelength of the total string. And the frequency of each of these vibrational modes is different, higher and higher and higher frequencies, depending upon which overtone. Now, I want to distinguish two things here. These are the so-called vibrational modes of the string, the energy eigenmodes of the string. More fundamental than these vibrational modes of the string are what are called the degrees of freedom of the string. So if we consider an ordinary string in three space, like a guitar string, which is a one-dimensional field in a three-dimensional space, a guitar string has two, what we call vibrational degrees of freedom. That string is free to vibrate up and down. That's one vibrational degree of freedom. But it's also free to vibrate forwards and backwards. That's a second vibrational degree of freedom of the superstring. Now, these are the vibrational degrees of freedom, the dimensions in which the string is free to vibrate. Given those degrees of freedom, we then see emerging from it all these, well, an infinity of vibrational frequencies, of vibrational modes of the string. And so we see the distinction between the degrees of freedom and the stable vibrational modes. The stable vibrational modes are infinite in number and are expressed, you could say, sounds of the string, the vibrational tones of the string. More fundamental than these vibrational tones are the structure of the string itself. These two degrees of freedom, vertical and horizontal, are intrinsic to the string. Similarly, the unified field, the E8 cross E8 heterotic superstring field, has, in terms of its concrete algebraic structure, the structure of a string. Not a guitar string, which is a one-dimensional string, but a string with 8 internal degrees of freedom, actually 8 bosonic and 8 fermionic. These are the internal degrees of freedom of the string, not the vibrational tones, which are virtually infinite, actually literally are infinite in number. So I want to distinguish now, as we'll see in the next chart, I want to distinguish between the abstract structure of Veda, or abstract structure of the unified field, its internal modes, its vibrational degrees of freedom, which represent the bottom of this chart. This is on the level of the unified field itself and its internal structure, its intrinsic structure. In the intrinsic structure of the unified field is 8 bosonic, 8 fermionic. From this intrinsic internal structure, which is beyond time, beyond space, Poincare invariant, but emerging from this intrinsic structure, abstract structure of unity, are the innumerable vibrational frequencies of the unified field, the waves of the ocean, And those waves of the ocean, or emergent frequencies, these modes, vibrational modes, are shown above the unified field in this chart as the emerging fundamental particles and forces of nature. Beginning with the three so-called superfields, gravity, gauge, and matter superfields, which, with the breaking of supersymmetry, manifests as 5 fundamental spin types responsible for the whole creation. These 5 fundamental spin types include the spin 2 graviton, responsible for gravity, the spin 3 halves gravitino field, its fermionic supersymmetric partner, the spin 1 forces, the strong, weak, and electromagnetic forces responsible for all phenomena in the universe, the spin 1 half matter fields, the electrons and quarks at the basis of nuclei and nucleons and atoms, responsible for all matter in the universe, and the spinless Higgs bosons, which are instrumental to the process of symmetry breaking, leading to the increasingly diversified structure of the particles and forces at increasingly macroscopic scales. But all this universe of elementary particles and forces are just the vibrational modes of the abstract unity of the unified field with its internal structure of 8. So, this is the difference between unified field and its expressions. Internal degrees of freedom, which are 8, and its innumerable modes of vibration, the so-called energy eigenmodes, which are the elementary particles and forces of nature. And remarkably, not just the elementary particles and forces are the vibrational modes of the unified field, but the bound states of these fundamental particles. For example, bound states of quarks are protons and neutrons, and the whole world of strongly interacting hadrons. And from the protons and neutrons, their bound states are the nuclei of the atoms, the iron nucleus, hydrogen nucleus, uranium nucleus, and so forth. These are bound states of nucleons and are also stable reverberant frequencies of the unified field. And the bound states of these nuclei with electrons to form atoms, stable atoms, are also stable reverberant frequencies of the unified field. And the bound states of atoms into molecules, including the human DNA, which is a macromolecule, these are also just reverberant frequencies of the unified field. And it's the same with planets and stars. Anything with any stable existence in the universe is just a stable, vibrating mode of the unified field. Nothing more, nothing less. The whole universe, according to modern science, therefore, is a symphony. It's not a world of matter, of particles or building blocks, just frequencies, harmonics of the unified field in vibration. So the whole universe is purely a universe of sound, a universe of vibration, nothing other. And that's the extraordinary result of unified quantum field theories based on the superstring, as rigorously shown in that Fock-space representation equation that rigorously identifies everything in the universe as just a specific vibrational frequency of the unified field. Equipped with that understanding of physical reality, brought to us by the latest discoveries of unified quantum field theories, we are now in a position to understand what is Veda. Veda means knowledge, total knowledge. Total knowledge of what? Total knowledge of natural law governing the universe. And total knowledge means the knowledge of the abstract totality of natural law, knowledge of the unified field and its diversified expressions. The Veda is the knowledge of the unified field. Just as modern science has recently revealed the unified source of the diversified universe in the E8 cross E8 heterotic superstring, so the Vedic science, the most ancient and profound knowledge on earth, is and has always been the knowledge of that unified field and its diversified expressions, including the knowledge of self-interaction, the dynamics of self-interaction, which leads to the emergence of diversity from fundamental unity. That's the total range of knowledge. The total range of knowledge is from unity to diversity. Again, as shown in this chart, the full range of knowledge is the abstract unity at the foundation of the universe. And the vibrations or internal dynamics of that unity, which leads to the emergence of these diversified expressions, leading to the entire universe. That is the total range of natural law. That is the total range of knowledge. That's the total range of knowledge of unified quantum field theory, and that's the total range of knowledge of the Veda. We saw in the context of modern quantum physics the eightfold structure of the internal degrees of freedom of the unified field in the context of the E8 cross E8 heterotic superstring. 8 bosonic degrees of freedom, 8 fermionic degrees of freedom, and the Vedic description of this self-same unity, as we see here, is also in terms of 8. Fundamentally one unified field, but one in terms of an 8 divided internal structure, the so-called 8 prakritis. These directly correspond to the 8 vibrational degrees of freedom of the superstring. Now, there's a second formulation of the superstring of modern physics, the so-called bosonic string, where these 8 really are replaced by 24 bosonic degrees of freedom, as shown in this next chart. At the bottom of the chart is the Lagrangian of the bosonic string, which is described in terms of 24 vibrational degrees of freedom. And there is also a formulation of the unified field in the Vedic language that corresponds precisely to these 24 frequencies, and that is the first Richa of the Rig Veda. And I'll explain this once more in greater detail, but looking again at this previous chart, we see a further formulation of the unified field from the standpoint of modern unified field theory, the so-called free fermionic formulation of string, where the 24 is replaced by 64 fermionic vibrational degrees of freedom, and from 64 we derive 192. So there are different formulations of the superstring. That means different mathematical descriptions of the self-same constitution of the universe, self-same field of total natural law, different mathematical descriptions of the same unified field, and one of the great breakthroughs of the last 5 years, the so-called second superstring revolution, for which we must credit the work of Professor Ed Witten, that all of these different descriptions of the unified field, in terms of 1, in terms of 8, in terms of 24, in terms of 64, etc., all of these descriptions are rigorously identical. Just different mathematical viewpoints on the same unified reality, in greater degrees of elaboration. In exactly the same way, the Vedic wisdom, as illuminated by Maharshi and his pioneering work in reviving the complete knowledge of Veda in this scientific age, is understanding just exactly this sequential unfoldment of knowledge built into the structure of the Vedic literature, built into the structure of the Vedic expressions. Because the Veda, Maharshi emphasizes, begins with A. The Rig Veda, which is the most compact expression of total knowledge, the constitution of the universe in the Vedic tradition of knowledge, begins with the Rig Veda, and the Rig Veda begins with its first syllable, A. In that unified syllable, single syllable, Maharshi finds the totality of knowledge, fully expressed. Total natural law in the syllable A, which represents wide open fullness of speech, A, a continuum of totality, representing the nature of the unified field as the field of total knowledge. And yet within A, Maharshi locates, and we see sequentially unfolding from A, as A evolves into Agni Mile Purohitam, the first pada, or 8 syllables of the Rig Veda. And Agni Mile Purohitam unfolds into Agni Mile Purohitam Yajñasya Deva Mritvijam Hotaram Ratnadatamam, the first 24 syllables, first Richa of the Rig Veda, in this sequentially unfolding way. The Veda expression comments essentially upon itself in this sequence of increasingly elaborated expressions of totality. We could say increasingly elaborated versions of the constitution of the universe. And Maharishi describes this all in exquisite detail, how the Veda comments on itself, how within A, which is the first syllable of every alphabet, the totality of speech represented in A, is contained all the other vowels, and indeed the entire Vedic language. Within A, Maharishi describes as E, U, R, Ri, A, O, Ma. Within A, Maharishi describes as E, the next syllable to emerge, and E represents dynamism. The dynamism represented in the flow of A. A is just A, but A is a continuum of A that flows eternally on and on. And in that concept of flow, contained within A is dynamism of flow, represented by E. And Maharishi describes that the moment that dynamism, the flow, comes to the fore of one's attention, then the A, which is the silent continuum, is overshadowed by the flow or dynamism of the continuum. And in that sense, E, the dynamism, hides the silence of A. And that hiding quality is embodied in the next syllable to emerge, which is U. So E is a commentary on U, on A, and U a commentary on E, but U is contained within E, and E is contained within A, and like that, all the 8 swaras or vowels are contained within A. The whole first pada, Agnimale Purohitam, is contained within A, as Maharishi very precisely and profoundly elaborates. And again, from the first pada, 8-syllable expression of total knowledge, the constitution of the universe, comes the first richa of 24 syllables. From 24 syllables comes the first sukta of 64 plus 64 plus 64 equals 192 syllables. These sounds, the Vedic sounds, are the fundamental frequencies of the unified field. They're the degrees of freedom, the vibrational degrees of freedom of the unified field identified by modern science in the various formulations of the constitution of the universe provided by the heterotic superstring, the bosonic superstring, the free fermionic formulation of the superstring, and so forth in terms of 1, 24, 64, etc. So quantitatively, these two languages of modern science in terms of mathematics in Vedic science, in terms of flowing linguistics, they are identical. Two different languages describing the self-same reality of unity. Unified field of total natural law illuminated by the mathematical approach of modern science and the predominantly linguistic approach of Maharishi's Vedic science. But what is extraordinary about this Vedic language and distinguishes it from any other language, whether Latin or English or French, what distinguishes the Vedic language is that the Vedic syllables, Vedic vowels, Vedic consonants, Vedic syllables of Agni, Mile, Purohitam, these are the sounds of the unified field flowing. These are the actual vibrational frequencies of consciousness, actual vibrational frequencies of the unified field, flowing within itself. Ah flows to Ak, flows to Agnim. It's all the dynamics of the flow of unity, predictable and explicable in the way that Maharishi does with extraordinary lucidity of how Ah collapses to Ak in the first syllable of the Rig Veda. Fullness of fullness, total natural law, Ah, collapses to its point value, Ka. And in the process of that inevitable collapse, 8 swaras or syllables, 8 stages of collapse are revealed, are located, representing the 8 prakriti or 8 dynamics, 8 qualities of dynamism of the unified field, and these 8 get elaborated in the first pada, 8 syllables of the Rig Veda, and so forth. So the sounds of the Veda are not arbitrary. These are the actual vibrational qualities associated with the vibrational modes of the superstring, the fundamental vibrational frequencies of the unified field. And we have seen that these fundamental vibrational modes of the unified field are the elementary particles and forces of nature. And not just the elementary particles and forces, the quarks, the leptons, the gluon, the photon, the graviton, but all other bound states, which means all the nuclei, all the atoms, all the molecules, all the human beings, all the planets and stars and galaxies. Everything in the universe that has an existence is just the vibrational modes of the unified field. That means combinations of Vedic sounds. So everything in the universe is just a combination of the frequencies of the unified field, which are the Vedic sounds, not the English sounds. It wouldn't be correct to say that quark is the sound of a quark. A quark is really an arbitrary English name. Couldn't be more arbitrary. That's one of the shortcomings of physics today. The names given to the elementary particles are arbitrary. But in the Vedic language, every object of reality, every elementary particle, has a corresponding sound that's not just an intellectual name, but is the sound, is the actual vibrational frequency corresponding to that reality. That's what makes the Vedic language so precious. As a research tool, anyone with sufficient alertness can do research on these Vedic sounds and experience the reality corresponding to those sounds. So the Vedic sounds are extremely powerful, both as a research tool and, as we will see next in my final remarks, as a technology of transformation. Very powerful technology of the Vedic sounds. So the Vedic sounds themselves are just the knowledge of the unified field and its self-interacting dynamics and the mechanics through which the universe emerges. But from this knowledge, technologies can be assembled. And the Vedic technologies, including the Transcendental Meditation program of Maharshi, and advanced techniques, including yajna, including Vedic agriculture, all of these technologies of the unified field are technologies of sound, vibrational technologies that package the knowledge of the unified field, these Vedic sounds, into practical expressions for specific results. And that's the last point we need to understand before I introduce our main speaker of today. Now that we understand that everything in the universe is made of sound, actually is nothing but sound, Vedic sound, then any transformation in the universe is really just a transformation of one sound to another in a process that I like to call the chemistry of sound. What do we mean by chemistry of sound? And the practical application of the Vedic sounds really corresponds to a chemistry of sound. Well, let's look at the following very typical chemical reaction. This is the most important reaction that drives the human metabolism. It shows a chemical molecule on the left, C6H12O6. If you want to transform sugar into, for example, carbon dioxide or water, you have to add another chemical. To transform sugar into water, you have to add oxygen. So the equation reads sugar, C6H12O6, plus oxygen, 6O2, 6 oxygen molecules, leads to, in a chemical reaction, the emergence of 6 carbon dioxide molecules and 6 water molecules. This is a typical chemical reaction. A chemist transforms one chemical into a desired chemical. And how do you transfer one chemical into another? Through the addition of a specific chemical, in this case oxygen, to transform sugar into water. So that's chemistry. But in reality, this process that we have just seen is really a chemistry of sound, because the initial sugar molecule shown here, as we've seen in terms of superstring theory, is just a specific vibrational frequency of the unified field. If we want to transform that vibrational frequency into the vibrational frequency of water on the right, we need to add another frequency, the frequency of the unified field that corresponds to oxygen. So this chemical reaction explicitly shows how sound will transform one substance into another. The same thing is true not just on the chemical level, but on the level of elementary particles, as shown here. If you want to transform an electron, which is coming in from the left in the so-called Feynman diagram, if you want to transform an initial state electron into a final state pair of muons, mu plus, mu minus, to transform an electron into a muon pair, you have to add another particle. You have to add a positron. So here we know the electron is just a vibrational frequency of the unified field. And to go from that vibrational frequency to the desired frequency corresponding to an outgoing muon pair, you have to add an additional frequency, the frequency of the unified field that we call a positron. Here is another example of how you apply a sound to transform one sound, an initial sound, into the desired final state sound. So whether we're talking about the transformation of elementary particles, whether we're talking about the transformation of molecules, whether we're talking about the transformation of one state of human physiology, perhaps a state of disease, into a new state of human physiology, a state of health, or one state of a plant in its growth phase into a more mature, healthy state of a plant, all of this can be accomplished and ultimately can only be accomplished through the application of the correct sound. Whether that sound is in the form of a fertilizer, in the form of an herb, in the form of a spoken word or Vedic recitation, in every case, it's through the application of sound. And finally, Maharishi describes this all exquisitely in his profound analysis of Vedic transformation, shown in this chart. The whole flow of Veda, the whole evolutionary dynamics of creation, as we just saw in the language of Feynman graphs, is expressed in Maharishi's analysis of the transformation of sound. From one sound, shown on the left, ak, ah, on the left, collapsing to a point, manifest sound, collapsing to silence. And in that point, and from that point, the emergence of the subsequent sound, in this case, ni. Ak collapses, ni emerges. Those fourfold mechanics of transformation in the Vedic language are described as pradvansabhav. That's the collapse of an initial state of a system or an initial sound into the state of absolute transcendental silence. Adhyantabhav, total annihilation, complete transcendental state of existence. And within that absolute silence, reverberations of the silence are heard. And those reverberations within the silence really represent the abstract transformational dynamics of the Veda, which lead to the emergence of the subsequent sound of the Veda. Now, this is not just true of the flow of Vedic sounds, it's true in the flow of human speech, where every syllable of speech leads to the next syllable of speech. And every vowel of speech is punctuated by a consonant of speech, which means a point of silence between the syllables. But one syllable doesn't lead to a random emerging syllable. One syllable leads to the emergence of a specific subsequent syllable, so that speech is intelligent and intelligible. So somehow in the gap connecting the two syllables is some continuity. That continuity is the computational dynamics of silence, the computational dynamics of consciousness, abstract state of awareness, in between the concrete states of sound. So it doesn't matter where we look in creation. The mechanics of transformation are the same. And the Vedic technologies of sound utilize these mechanics of transformation by providing just that impulse, just that necessary vibrational frequency, just that necessary sound to transform one state of vibration into the next. So this is the chemistry of sound. This is the practical application of the Vedic mantras, the practical application of the Vedic knowledge. It can be used to transform anything into anything. Literally, this is the capacity of the Vedic wisdom. And we know that now through the unified quantum field theories of modern physics, because the unified field at the super unified scale is such a profound state of nature's transforming dynamics that you can literally transform anything into anything, even bosons into fermions. Absolutely opposite values in creation. Bosonic tendencies responsible for convergence or unification, fermionic tendencies responsible for diversification and emergence. Absolute opposite contrasting qualities of creation are united at the level of the unified field, the level of Veda, from which point anything can be transformed into anything. So this explains the potential power of the chemistry of sound, which is the Vedic knowledge of yajna and yoga and Vedic agriculture. It's all based on the unified field. That means all based upon the fundamental frequencies of wholeness, of total natural law, and their proper practical application. So now coming to our speaker and the application of this to agriculture. Every growing plant, which is a plant, of course, is an evolutionary system emerging from an abstract seed, concentrated state of total knowledge of the seed, total knowledge of the plant. From here it sprouts and ultimately grows its first branches, and then from the branches, subsidiary branches and leaves and fruits. The whole process is a process of sequential unfoldment, and the sequential unfoldment of the plant is accompanied by particularly critical phases, points of phase transition, where a single trunk splits to become several, two or more. And at these critical junction points, the plant physiology is particularly delicate or sensitive to any perturbing influence, positive or negative. Maharishi, Vedic organic agriculture adds Veda to agriculture, total knowledge and its application to agriculture. That means the knowledge of sound, knowledge of frequency, and its proper practical utilization. Vedic organic agriculture, as we'll hear in a moment, includes the recitation of specific Vedic sounds at specific stages in the maturation, in the development of a plant. And the development of the plant is always a delicate and sensitive process, and always should be nourished by the proper vibrational influences, but particularly at the critical modes or phase transitions where the seed sprouts, and the one central sprout becomes many sprouts, the many branches of the plant. At all of these phases, these bifurcations, the sensitivity of the plant to environmental influences is maximum. At those stages, it's especially important to apply the appropriate Vedic sounds, the nourishing frequencies of the unified field, to properly nurture and correctly transform one phase into the next evolutionary phase, and the next evolutionary step in the sequential unfoldment of the plant. So delicate and yet so important, particularly as a plant begins to develop its nutrients, its nutritional quality. Such subtlety and the sensitivity of the human body to the most tiny variations in what should be the proper nutritional structure of the proteins of the plant. It's vitally important that the plant unfold properly and no mistakes are made in the whole genetic sequence of unfoldment of the plant, so that absolutely maximum nutritional property of that plant is available with no perturbations, no disturbances. The complete intelligence of the plant nurtured and enlivened through the application of the proper Vedic sounds. So I just wanted to introduce that to make it absolutely clear scientifically the power of sound, particularly the Vedic sounds, which are the reverberant frequencies of the unified field with that remarkable transformational quality in principle that will transform anything into anything. Properly applied, this really allows the value of agriculture and its impact on human life, human health, and civilization to be absolutely, maximally positive and totally life-supporting. So with that theoretical foundation, it's a great joy for me to introduce the world's greatest expert today on the profound principles and practical application of Vedic organic agriculture. And that is Raja John Conhouse, who has worked extensively and very intimately with Maharshi on the development and unfoldment of the complete and pure and maximally effective Vedic science of agriculture, Maharshi Vedic organic agriculture. Raja, John Conhouse, Raja means administrator. But Raja has, along with it, the meaning of royal or regal administrator, which Raja John Conhouse and the Rajas of the global country of world peace, which are the great administrators of Maharaja Nararam, all have this power of administration developed to a supreme level, where the administration of life and society is truly regal, truly royal. It's administration based upon total knowledge, administration by an administrator who himself is anchored to the unified field of total knowledge and administers and governs from that same effortless, flawless, and invincible way that nature upholds the vast universe effortlessly in accordance with the universal principle of least action. Maximally graceful is the flow of nature. Maximally efficient, maximally life-supporting, all-nourishing is the rule of nature. And in this way, the Rajas, Raja John Conhouse, has really embodied the secret of administration, which is unified field-based administration. Administration based upon the total knowledge of natural law and its organizing power, which we have seen today, has the capability of transforming anything effortlessly into anything, eliminating all the mistakes and problems of a disease-ridden society into a holistic, life-supporting, maximally positive and evolutionary society, all gracefully and all effortlessly, as Raja John Conhouse does for his domain of California, the most populous, the most creative state in the most creative country of the world. And all of Raja John Conhouse's fellow citizens in his domain are very, very grateful for the wisdom and leadership he has brought to his domain, and we are most grateful, especially today, for what he is doing in the field of agriculture to elevate even organic agriculture to the level of supreme, to the supreme level of Maharshi Vedic agriculture, which, as we have seen, is unified field-based agriculture based upon the knowledge and application of total natural law. So please listen carefully to the words of Raja John Conhouse on this important subject of Maharshi Vedic organic agriculture. Jai Gurudev.
Gurudev. Thank you very much, Dr. Hagelin, for your beautiful introduction. It made my job today very easy to have you explain very carefully the true field of Vedic agriculture. Vedic agriculture is not really performed on the muddy fields. Vedic agriculture is really performed within the unified field of total natural law. Maharshi likes to say that it's the hollowness at the center of the seed, the silent intelligence at the center of the seed, which is really the source of all the expressions of the plant. It's really the consciousness of the farmer that's the true field of Vedic agriculture. And it was a joy to see the world's most enlightened physicist now is the world's most enlightened farmer at the same time. So we're very happy to have had your introduction, because now I'll be able to unfold that most fundamental expression into an expression of applying Vedic agriculture as it's practiced in the world. And it's nice to have the opportunity to do this today in the context of the global financial capital of New York. I want to present the two master keys for creating prosperity and health and happiness for the whole family of man. These are the Maharishi Vedic Organic Agriculture Program and its application, its sister program, the Maharishi Poverty Removal Program. These are two practical, carefully researched programs which taken together, the knowledge and its application in the field, together they can create balance and coherence and affluence in both the natural environment and in the human environment, in the social and economic environment. And thus these two programs can become a genuine basis for world peace. World peace, national invincibility, economic balance, these are goals which many have strived to accomplish in the past. But today, thanks to the wisdom of the great Vedic scientist and sage Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, we actually have in our hands a practical method, practical programs to achieve these goals. The essence of these two programs, Vedic Organic Agriculture and Maharishi's Poverty Removal, is simply to take a small percentage of the nearly 2 billion or 5 million acres of land, of usable farmland that's currently available in underdeveloped nations, and to use this land to create wealth, to create health, through organic foods, organic fiber crops, and through alternative fuels such as biofuels. In these two programs, we have the means to combine and align the creative intelligence of man with the creative intelligence, the culturing intelligence of nature. When these two come together, man's intelligence and nature's intelligence, then they have the ability to create wealth from the precious natural lands of a nation. Agriculture, as everybody knows, is the most fundamental and the most ancient and the most widespread of all the professions. Yet it accounts for less than 4% of the gross domestic product of any nation. This means that something is wrong. There's not a relationship between agriculture and wealth. Agriculture actually is the heart and the soul of the nation. It's the true source of health, as we'll see today. It's the source of prosperity for the nation. And yet, unfortunately, poverty and agriculture are almost synonymous today. All wealth ultimately comes from the earth. It comes from man's interaction, the creative intelligence of man interacting with the earth, with the intelligence, the creative intelligence of nature. Whether it's food or clothing or shelter, whether it's silicon chips or oil or gold, all of these are from the earth. And so it's for this reason that the earth can and must be respected, preserved, and developed as a source of wealth. And this is the essence of the Poverty Removal Program. The farmer must have a key role in the nation. He's the true father of his nation. He's responsible for the health and well-being of the nation. And yet worldwide the farmer's role is underappreciated. So today I'd like to talk about these two programs, first of all in terms of what is Vedic Organic Agriculture. What is it in theory and practice? Secondly, what's the value of this agriculture? And then what is the application? So let's start with what Vedic agriculture is, and Dr. Hagelin has given us a beautiful foundation for understanding that it begins in the most abstract and fundamental field of nature's functioning, the unified field. And Maharishi says that agriculture is agreeing with this culturing intelligence of natural law. Let me say it again because it contains the totality. Vedic agriculture is aligning our awareness or agreeing with the culturing intelligence of natural law. And this is the unified field. It's that field of consciousness within the deepest level of awareness of the farmer. The purpose of Vedic agriculture is to feel at home with this culturing agency, which is the peaceful, invincible creativity of total natural law that administers the entire universe. The farmer wants to attune his awareness with the intelligence which administers the universe, and therefore he'll have the support of that natural law in all of his activities. If we could see the first chart, we'll see an expression of this. This is a chart which shows the convergence of the field of agriculture, the agreement of the field of agriculture with the culturing intelligence of natural law, which is the unified field. This is the field of unified totality. In agriculture, we start with diversity, the diversified nature of life. We bring that diversity in tune with the culturing intelligence of natural law, the unified field. And what happens, what emerges from that agreement is Vedic agriculture, where the diversity exists on the basis of a unified totality. This means that all of the farmer's needs will be provided from his relationship with that culturing intelligence which is really creating the whole universe. And what's interesting is the process of gaining knowledge in agriculture and the process of applying that knowledge is a process which is the same process. It's the process of diversity converging into unity and then re-emerging as diversity on the basis of the intelligence of unity. This is expressed in this second chart here. This is the fundamental mechanics of nature and the fundamental mechanics of agriculture. Diversity being synthesized or converging onto unity and then re-emerging as diversity. This is the process of creation itself, which Dr. Hagelin has shown us is the fundamental mechanics of how the Ved unfolds itself, from the collapse to a point and then the re-emergence in that illustration of the gap which he has just shown us. There's a Vedic expression. It's the theme of Maharshi Vedic University. It's Anvaya Vyatireka Nishpapancham Prapanchate. It means through analysis and through synthesis, through convergence and re-emergence, total knowledge is unfolded in one single awareness. So it's through the process of unification and divergence from within the field of unity that Vedic agriculture is known and practiced. Let's see the next chart, please. This is a little bit small on the screen because it's meant to be a wall chart, but it shows the 10 fundamental aspects of the practical field of agriculture. And I'll read these because you probably can't read them. They are personnel planning and management, machinery and equipment, soil fertility management, sowing and planting, crop and livestock care, pest and disease management, water management, harvest and seed preservation, process and storage, and purchasing and marketing. These are the 10 boxes you see up there in the diversified practice of agriculture. But the farmer learns to attune these. He learns to align these. He learns to have these different diversified expressions in tune with that culturing intelligence, which we represent as the Ved. The Ved is that culturing intelligence. And the Ved is totally embodied in that first syllable of the Ved, which is Ah. That's like the seed, which is the basis of any plant. This quality of Ah, the intelligence which Dr. Hagelin described as the fundamental intelligence of the unified field. This is the field to which the farmer brings all of his diverse activity. And having done that, he begins to practice under the nourishing influence of that culturing intelligence. And that's what makes his agriculture Vedic agriculture. So the expressed value of agriculture becomes attuned to the unexpressed value of agriculture, and they form the unified value of agriculture. In Vedic agriculture, we like to see the whole process simply illustrated as the relationship between the tree and the seed. Here we have a tree which in its maturity converges all of its intelligence into a seed, and that seed is just a compactified version of that intelligence of the entire plant. And that seed then reemerges as a new generation, as a new tree, having refreshed itself in its exposure to the unified field of natural law. In the next chart, we see that generation after generation, from seed to tree, from seed to tree, from seed to tree, continually converging to that silent state of the seed, and then re-emerging as the fully blossomed plant. This is what gives vitality to nature, which keeps expressed intelligence in tune with its fundamental silent intelligence. There's another beautiful expression from the Upanishads. Kasminnu bhagavo vigyate sarvamidam vigyatam bhavatiti. It means to know that, to master that, by knowing which everything else is known. Master that, by mastering which everything else is mastered. This is the key for the farmer to master and manage his agriculture operation, to master nature from its unified source. And once he's mastered that, he automatically, and this is very important that you understand that it's automatic that nature supports him. The seasons come on time, the rains come on time. Even each individual farmer, Maharshi said today, if he needs rain and that natural law is fully enlivened in the country, that individual farmer will get rain. We could see the next chart, please. This is the unified field chart that we've been discussing. It shows this exact same thing, that on the right we see the convergence of awareness, the farmer's awareness through the Transcendental Meditation Program, to that unified value. On the left we see the convergence of all the expressed values of natural law converging onto the unified field of natural law. The same field at the basis of the consciousness of the farmer as is at the basis of the entire creation. And that's the relationship between the farmer and his creation around him, that unified field of his consciousness. So Vedic agriculture is a process of linking these two, linking the natural law as it's expressed in consciousness with natural law as it's expressed in the environment. In practice, Vedic agriculture has its basis in organic agriculture. The state-of-the-art, beautifully developed techniques of organic agriculture now, which have learned to create fertility in the soil and vitality in the plants without the use of harmful and toxic chemicals, pesticides, herbicides, etc. This is extremely important that the food be pure on this physical level. But for Vedic agriculture, organic is not enough. Vedic agriculture takes food to a new level of purity, a new level of vitality, a new level of perfection by bringing total natural law into the life cycle of the food, so that throughout the growing phase of the life of the plant, it's continually nourished by specific expressions of natural law, which have their basis in total natural law. How do we create Vedic food? We do it by three simple methods. One is we culture the awareness of the farmer to be in tune with natural law. And this we do through the Transcendental Meditation and the TM City program. Next, we enliven natural law in the food through the Vedic recitations. And finally, we ensure that the food is maintained fresh, it's fully ripened when it's picked, and it is pure in all its qualities and aspects. If you could see the next chart, please. This chart shows that the relationship of natural law is very closely connected with the quality of consciousness in society. On the left side, we can see that societal purity, and by this we mean coherence in collective consciousness, which is created through these groups practicing the TM and TM City program. It's actually the collective consciousness of society which affects the balance of the seasons, the balance of nature, the purity of the soil, the water, the air. It's an amazing relationship. Because of the effect of collective consciousness on the unified field, it actually affects the laws of nature and their expression in the environment. And that purity and balance in the environment, as we can see on the right now, affects the purity and quality of the food itself. The vitality of the herbs in the food is completely dependent upon the vitality of natural law in the environment. So this cycle that we see here, coherence in consciousness, strength of natural law, purity of food, then again affects the strength and quality of the collective consciousness. This is the relationship between consciousness, food, and the environment, which we deal with in Vedic agriculture. And research on the Transcendental Meditation program has shown great benefits for the individual farmers. If we could look at the next slides quickly. Increased occupational coherence is one benefit shown by practice of TM. The next slide. Increased employee effectiveness. Increased job satisfaction. Decreased stress during task performance. These and many more specific benefits of transcendental meditation help the farmer in his profession. The second major modality we used has been, again, beautifully described by Dr. Hagelin. He talked about the application of the reverberations of natural law itself, the Vedic sounds, the Vedic recitations. The pundits, who are the masters of the Vedic sounds, they have been trained to take the unmanifest, abstract reverberations of natural law within their consciousness and bring them to the expressed level as sound, as spoken sound. And it's those reverberations, like a tuning fork, which affect the transformations in the life of the plant. So the Vedic recitations, I'll just explain how this works. The Vedic recitations bring specific qualities of natural law to the plant to nourish the plant's growth at critical stages of its life. And here we see that process. We see 8 stages in the life of a plant. First of all, the seed. The silent, unmanifest, quiet level of the plant. And then the swollen seed. When the first moisture has come to the seed, it swells up and begins to exhibit an internal dynamism. It's growing. Then the next stage is the sprouting stage. And the next, the young plant. Then the fully grown plant. Finally, the plant in flower, and then in fruit, and finally back to the seed stage. And you can see between each of these stages, if you look carefully, you can see the collapse to a point. In the transformation of the silent seed to the dynamic seed, we have a collapse to the silent, unified field for the next state to emerge. And at the top you can see, if you can, the little arrows, it says Vedic recitations. Vedic recitations, specific application of specific qualities of Vedic knowledge are applied in each of these gaps so that in the life of the plant, it has the ability to incorporate the total range of natural law in itself. It's a beautiful dynamics of using the technology of Ved to create an influence in the life of the plant. Let's look at 3 other qualities of Vedic food which distinguish it. First of all, the quality of purity. With Vedic food, because it's going to nourish our physiology, we need to make sure it's completely pure on all levels: physical, mental, the mental purity of the farmer, the environmental purity, the purity of intention in growing the food, the purity of action while growing and harvesting the food. Purity is more than just making sure it's organic. Purity is the full range of purity, even extending to preparing the food and eating the food. In the Vedic culture, purity extends from the seed to the dinner table, the whole range of the food. There's a Hindi saying, if we could see the next chart. In the fields of India, they say, Jai sa kave ana bai sa bane mana. It means mind depends on the quality of food we eat. Our very quality of mind depends on that. Let's look at that from the point of view of science. Here's what happens to the quality of mind. Look at the next slide. When there's toxic chemicals in the food, this shows the effect of polychlorinated biphenyls, which are an earlier pesticide or herbicide. It's a toxic chemical used to control pests or diseases in plants. On the left side, the chart shows the quality of logical memory. And as the concentration of this chemical in the bloodstream increases, and it's present in almost everybody who's not eating organic food, the quality of logical memory decreases. A direct relationship between the quality of mind and the quality of food. If we could see the next 3 slides, please. Here's some of the damaging effects that impure food has. It causes a disruption of the immune system. It causes reduced disease resistance. It reduces the effectiveness of the endocrine system. It disrupts the development of many systems. It can cause even birth defects or reproductive problems. It can cause cancer. It can interfere with higher cognitive functionings. All the different, naturally, if the physiology is being adversely affected with the impure foods, all of the functioning of that physiology must be adversely affected. You can see the next slide. And this again, here's a beautiful result. It shows that, again, on the left side, the height of the graph shows these chemicals in the bloodstreams of children. And it shows the moment that they begin an organic diet, within 7 days, the percentage of these chemicals is reduced in the blood system. So it's extremely quick and effective to reduce these toxic substances by pure food. We've seen from Rajaram's research, His Majesty Rajaram's, that physiology is the expression of Ved. And therefore we can assume that the quality of food that's structuring physiology will directly affect the quality of functioning of that physiology. There's a beautiful quote from the Ramayana. Yad anaha purusho bhavati tad anastasya devata. It summarizes almost all of the research that Rajaram has done between consciousness and physiology and the environment. It says that the food that we eat, and here's an expression of it in pictures, the food that we eat, the devatas, the intelligence within our physical system, that intelligence eats that food. In other words, here we have a picture in the brain of the various devatas, silence and dynamism within the functioning of the brain, personified as these devatas. So the Vedic quality of the food we eat will directly affect the performance of these Vedic intelligences within the physiology. Next quality we want to look at as the food should be fully ripened. We saw from applying the Vedic intelligence throughout the life cycle of a plant. Imagine what would happen if one of those cycles, one of those stages of the life of the plant was cut short. What if we harvested the food before it was fully ripe? That means some aspects of nature's intelligence, and actually the ending stages, the ripening stages of the fruit contain some of the most vital times where nature's intelligence is fully matured in the food. If we cut this short, the food will not be fully vital for our physiology. If we could see the next slide. This shows the increase of antioxidants in apples as they're allowed to ripen on the tree. If we harvested those apples on August 3rd on the left, we could see that the value of antioxidant would be 10 units. If we harvested them on 14th of September when they're fully ripe on the tree, you can see the value has more than quadrupled. And unfortunately, the common practice is to harvest them on the 3rd of August and keep them in cold storage until we're ready to sell them. Next slide. Here's what happens in harvesting broccoli the days after harvest. The drop of the beta-carotene in the broccoli. You can see how quickly it drops off after 5 or 6 or 8 days. And yet most of us are eating broccoli that's 8 days old. That's how long it's taken it to make its way through the food chain. Vedic Organic insists that we have that food fully ripe within the first days. So the importance of food in Vedic life cannot be overemphasized. In the Vedic tradition, food was recognized to be the source of health and wealth and prosperity and well-being. It was recognized as the source of happiness and delight. It was recognized as the source even of coherent and righteous behavior. So to summarize, we can say that the quality of food determines the quality of digestion and metabolism of that food, which determines the quality of physiology, which determines the expression of that physiology, which determines our health and happiness in our life. So this is Vedic organic agriculture in its theoretical, deep understanding and its practical application. But now, to complete today's presentation, I feel it's important to understand the relationship of this to the Maharishi Poverty Removal Program. Because in essence, they're not two separate programs. Vedic agriculture is a program to remove poverty, and poverty can only be removed by the application of Vedic agriculture. We're going to have a whole presentation on this, but I want to make the connection here so that you can see the relationship between Vedic agriculture and poverty removal. Actually, we've said that the two combine the intelligence of man with the intelligence of nature. We apply the intelligence of man to bring out, through the intelligence of nature, the wealth which is inherent in nature. Maharishi said the only way to remove poverty, the only way, is to change the destiny of mankind and to change the destiny of the earth by enlivening the unified field of natural law in both of them. Money will never eliminate poverty. It's been tried over and over again when I've traveled around the world and seen the relics of various poverty removal programs that the World Bank has administered. Everywhere you see equipment, machinery that's just sitting idle because money wasn't the key. The development of the creative intelligence of the people and the creative intelligence of the land was the key, and that wasn't done. Let me simply state the principles of this program, and you'll see immediately the relationship to Vedic agriculture. First of all, it's to eradicate poverty completely from all aspects of the farmer's life from the very first day. That means mental poverty, physical poverty, spiritual poverty. This means housing, education, all aspects of the farmer's life must be addressed immediately, and the poverty must be removed from that. We don't want to wait, because the farmer must be relieved from his poverty before he can begin to be truly creative. We want to use the unused lands. We don't need to take any existing farms for this program. We want to develop new land, new wealth from the earth. And we want to create a quality of food which is so much superior to the current chemical-laden conventional food that we can charge 2, 3, or 4 times the price for that food, so that the farmer truly gets back what he deserves for the role he's playing. We want to guide the farmers to follow these principles of fresh, fully ripened, and pure food, so that their food really affects life the way they really want it to. But in doing all this, we want to reduce the hours of the farmers. We want to bring the mothers and the children back to the home environment. We want to create a quality of life where the farmers and their families have time for their culture and religious practice, and they're not working 8 and 10 hours a day. That's the principles. How is it managed? This is another key point that Maharishi is turning upside down the way life is managed. How do we manage poverty removal? How do we manage Vedic agriculture? We do it under the family participation. The parental role, Dr. Hagelin mentioned that parental role this morning. It's based on the Vedic expression Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. The world is my family. The world is my family, which means the farmer is a member of my family. So the Vedic agriculture program is managed through the parental role, and this means that the investor, the supplier of the wealth, should take a role in the project like a parent. He should assure that the project reaches success and fulfillment. The investor nourishes the project and guides the project until it reaches success through his continued attention. This is how he assures the success of his own investment, not through risk analysis, not through foreclosures, not through fear and pressure on the poor farmers, but through a nourishing parental role, a guiding role, so that that farm and that investment reaches its fulfillment. A parent nourishes his child. A parent supports, educates. He upholds his children. And he does it to all the children equally. No parent ever thought of foreclosing on his child. No parent ever did a risk analysis on his child to see if it was going to work out. He makes it work out. And that's the nature of the parental role. And current financial policies are the complete opposite of this. Maharishi says they're cruel because they just act on fear and pressure on the farmer to perform, and they don't give him a chance to blossom. And this is the cause of the poverty we see in the world. That's how it's managed. How is it financed? It's financed through 2 beautiful principles, again, which are enlightened principles of financing. One is that the project should be self-sufficient through the global country of world peace's RAM currency. Maharishi says we won't depend on outside finances until those finances are fully life-nourishing and life-supporting according to the principles we've just talked about. We'll use the RAM. If we could see the picture of the RAM. This is a picture of the RAM currency. It's a development currency issued by the global country of world peace in cooperation with local governments. And it's unrestricted in its source, and it's unrestricted in its application. It finances all of the startup costs, all of the wages of the farmer, and it's backed. Its security is in the growth of the crops. Its security is in the sale of the crops. When the crops are sold, the RAM is retired from circulation, and the hard currencies take over, and the whole project has been nourished by this developmental currency. And RAM is not inflationary. Many people think that the printing of a new currency would be inflationary, but it's not inflationary because it's backed by increased productivity and economic development of the nation. And the second principle is that Maharishi wants the investment to be risk-free. And we do that through diversification. We do that through multi-crops in multi-geographic environments, so that everywhere in the world these programs are supporting and nourishing each other. And what proof do we have that this is going to work? If we could see the next few slides. Many people think that organic agriculture is not as cost-effective, as productive as conventional agriculture. But in Madhya Pradesh, India, average cotton yields on organic farms are 20% higher. In Mexico, 100,000 small coffee farmers increased their yields by 50% by doing it organically. Organic alfalfa produced a yield of over 400 times more, with 300% more nutrition because it was grown organically. And in Brazil, 23,000 farmers have doubled their yields. Agriculture, organic, Vedic organic agriculture works and is productive. And it is in effect right now. If we could see just for the fun the next few slides. Here's some examples. In Fairfield, Iowa, in Maharshi Vedic cities, we have Vedic organic greenhouses. In the Ukraine, we have beautiful, huge organic fields growing organic grains. In North Carolina, we have an organic dairy. And here are some of the crops that we're showing in the many Vedic organic displays and organic food shows around the world from our farms in South America. So it works. We have a plan. We have a team. We founded a company, Global Country Organics, which will manage and market the products that we're growing on all of these farms. And I'd just like to give you a quick summary of how an investment could work out, how extremely profitable this Vedic organic and this marshy poverty removal projects. This is an example, just a rough example, because the numbers depend very much on the crops and the length of the growing season, etc. But for acquisition, we can assume it costs about $140 per hectare to buy land in these poor countries. Then the development of that land, bringing in, clearing the land and supplying irrigation, etc., which costs about $800 per acre. The first year operating costs are about $1,060 an acre. Basically, it will cost about $2,000 per hectare to develop and farm the land. So for 100 million hectares, that's $200 billion. But the average revenue from that, even the first year, could be about at least $1,800 per hectare, with an average operating cost in future years of about $1,200. If this brought even $600 per hectare, which is a very low-end figure compared to what can be grown in some of these countries, it would result in a $60 billion profit per year, or a 30% return on investment. And in case anyone thinks that $200 billion is a lot of money, we've already spent that, more than that, in a useless war in Iraq, where instead of creating life-supporting and nourishing influences, we've created terror and fear and anxiety. I just heard the other day that in Baghdad, 70% of the young people are suffering from anxiety syndrome. They can hardly speak without stuttering. And yet if that same $200 billion was spent to nourish millions of young farm children in this practice of these coherence-creating technologies, the world could be filled with bliss instead of fear and poverty. So that's the plan. We have the plan. We have the team. We have the knowledge. We have the finest experts in the world that want to develop these two programs. It's simply now up to the wealthy to invest and to bring these projects to fulfillment. Wealth must be in the awareness. If you don't have the awareness of totality, you're never going to be a truly wealthy person. The reality of life that we've been describing, that unified field of pure consciousness, is the real precious wealth in life. And all of the wealthy should realize this and understand the relationship between their investments and creating that state of life in the world which they live, in the world in which they're taking part. What a wealth of bliss and happiness and well-being we could have if every wealthy investor began to support these two programs of Maharshi Vedic organic agriculture. Jai Gurudev.
Jay Gerdau. Thank you very much, Roger John Conhouse, for a spectacular presentation of a whole new foundation for agriculture on Earth. This is such a complete and comprehensive exposition in these short 40 minutes in concentrated form. Is the blueprint of an entirely new approach to agriculture that is so comprehensive, so profoundly based on the most profound and comprehensive principles of nature's functioning, and so profoundly based on the empirical facts of modern science today about the importance of this type of supremely nutritious food. But every aspect of agriculture, all the 10 different areas of agriculture, have been covered in such beautiful but succinct completeness that this one talk could literally be unpacked to a whole curriculum of agriculture that would be far more comprehensive and profound than the knowledge gained at any existing university or agricultural school anywhere in the world. Such a beautiful and comprehensive foundation for a whole new approach to agriculture with tremendous positive potential for humankind. And I particularly enjoyed your final comments about financing this transformation of agriculture in the world from what has been a highly erosive and toxic form of agriculture with chemical fertilizers and pesticides and other additives that really deteriorate and deplete the health of the people, versus agriculture that has been shown to increase not only physical functioning but mental functioning, promoting maximum brain functioning and higher states of consciousness. What a foundation for a new civilization, perfectly healthy, perfectly whole, perfectly vital. Your comments about the financing of it were particularly beautiful and appropriate, coming today from 70 Broad Street, the global financial capital of New York, sitting in the heart of the financial capital of the world, located and founded here by Maharaja Nararam, first ruler of the global country of world peace, under Maharshi's direct inspiration and the organizing power of the Minister of Finance and Planning, Dr. Benjamin Feldman. This institution, Global Financial Capital of New York, has been established here in the financial hub of the world to transform the very quality of finance in the world and investment in the world, as you said, from fear-driven, risk-averse financing, which is directly at odds frequently with the welfare of the people and the projects being financed, to a whole new parental role of financing, which will, on the one hand, return great yields because the profitability of organic agriculture properly done is clearly vast in comparison to conventional agriculture, which typically achieves very low financial yield, particularly because organic agriculture is by far the fastest growing component of the agricultural market, in greatest demand and ever increasing demand by discerning people who are concerned about the health of themselves, of their children, of their schools, of their society. So this can be done extremely profitably, as you point out, but even more important, certainly as important, is that these investments should benefit the farmers and the countries in which these projects are undertaken. And to ensure that that is the case, the parental role of the Global Financial Capital of New York that is launching these 6 programs to reconstruct the world, including this program today of Maharshi Vedic Organic Agriculture, which, as we've seen, is unified field-based agriculture, most advanced system of agriculture in the world. All these programs are for the benefit of humankind and can be done in such a win-win fashion that the farmers who are giving their lives and the lives of their families for the success of these projects themselves benefit profoundly in terms of ideal working conditions, of course, pure, nutritious, healthy food, proper housing built in accord with Maharshi's Tapachya Ved, and all these elements, a good quality of life to reward the fact that the farmers are the source of the food and health of civilization and should be appropriately compensated. All these elements taken into account in Maharshi Vedic Organic Agriculture and its financing, organized and administered in a parental way by this Global Financial Capital of New York, of the global country of world peace. So a beautiful talk, really a talk for all generations, and really should just be played and analyzed and unfolded for all students of agriculture, for all times throughout the world. This is the total message of agriculture, and Vedic agriculture really means the total knowledge of agriculture in one very beautiful, eloquent, compact 40-minute dissertation, total knowledge of agriculture. It is a great joy at this point to summarize this beautiful message of today, to introduce the Prime Minister of the global country of world peace, Dr. Bevan Morris, who has been the anchor of these presentations by bringing all this knowledge of all these different areas of life, areas of national concern, in conclusion of each presentation to the highest level. All these different areas of administration representing the different prakritis, the different diversified aspects of the total organizing intelligence of nature, all these different areas of administration come to one unified focal point in paraprakriti, the transcendental source of each of the prakritis, each of the diversified qualities of the dynamism of nature, and representing that totality of paraprakriti and presiding over all the divided ministries of Maharaja Nadaram is Maharaja Nadaram's Prime Minister, Dr. Bevan Morris, who was chosen as this position, as the right-hand side of Maharaja Nadaram, for his comprehensive and profound knowledge, and consequently the infinite organizing power associated with this total knowledge. And Dr. Bevan Morris embodies both total knowledge and its infinite organizing power, his enormous organizational capability, and is here in New York at this time to expertly preside over all of these world-changing initiatives about which we have heard, one more of which we will hear this coming Wednesday. Because of his comprehensive knowledge, he has been given the responsibility, because he is naturally equipped with the capability as a profound exponent of Maharshi's Vedic knowledge, with deep experience as an Enlightenment course graduate of the total knowledge of Ved and its organizing power. So Dr. Bevan Morris has been a brilliant and beautiful commentator, and with the extraordinary ability to summarize all the profound points of all of these fields. Dr. Morris is also the world's foremost educator and dynamic proponent of Maharshi's consciousness-based, unified field-based Vedic approach to education throughout the world, and as such is the president and chairman of the board of trustees of Maharshi University of Management and its award-winning school, Maharshi School of the Age of Enlightenment, where students of all ages, kindergarten to PhD, achieve and enjoy unprecedented educational outcomes in all areas of student life and student performance through the incorporation into the educational routine of Maharshi's unified field-based Vedic approach to education. So please listen to the words and wisdom of Dr. Bevan Morris, Prime Minister of the global country of world peace. Jai Gurudev. Dr. Morris.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hagelin. Today in the Vedic calendar of India is a great day called Akshaya Tritiya, the day of lasting achievements. And traditionally in India, this is the day when everything new that one wants to succeed and last for a long time is begun. So it's a very great day to begin on this theme of organic agriculture and its relationship to the elimination of world poverty. The value of organic agriculture is increasingly being recognized around the world. And equally, the damaging nature of agriculture done with chemicals, poisonous chemicals, is also being recognized with alarm by parents, particularly everywhere in the world. Instead of nourishing life, agriculture made with poisons actually damages life. And it is vital, therefore, that all this non-organic or chemical agriculture should now be transformed everywhere in the world to organic agriculture. Today we have heard a theme, however, that takes us beyond just organic agriculture to the level of Maharshi Vedic organic agriculture. Organic agriculture is a minus field. It is agriculture minus poison. Maharshi Vedic organic agriculture is organic agriculture, that is minus poison, but with a plus. And that is the influence of Ved, the influence of the unified field introduced into the field of agriculture to make the very best food that could ever be grown in the world. Dr. Hagelin, the preeminent quantum physicist of our age, has today laid out the basis of Maharshi Vedic organic agriculture, the ultimate form of agriculture, in the discovery of the unified field of natural law. He has made clear to us that what is being offered in this session today is unified field-based agriculture. Dr. Hagelin has shown us that the entire diversity of the galactic universe is administered by and is the expression of this unified field of quantum physics. He has shown us in detail the mathematical structure of that basic field of the universe and how all laws of nature, all diversity is expressed from within that self-interacting field. He has further shown us that every human being in the world is capable of directly experiencing the unified field of natural law as the simplest form of their own consciousness through the practice of transcendental meditation and its advanced techniques, including yogic flying. He has further identified for us the reality that the vibrations of the unified field, its own self-referral reverberations, have been experienced by the Vedic rishis of India as the fundamental sounds of the unified field, a language of natural law that is heard by the enlightened when they experience this level of the unified field. And these sounds, these Vedic sounds, therefore, are the basic impulses of the intelligence of the universe, the basic impulses of natural law. As Maharshi described it in his address today on Akshaya Tritiya, they are Shabda Brahm, the sounds of Brahm, of totality. That is what the Vedic sound is. So then, having understood these fundamentals from Dr. Hagelin, we were able to hear from an expert practitioner of Maharshi Vedic organic agriculture, Raja John Conhouse, the Raja of California, how these fundamental principles that Dr. Hagelin revealed apply specifically to farmers and to farming. As Raja Conhouse remarked, now with what Dr. Hagelin has revealed in the discovery of the unified field, farming really no more takes place really essentially in the muddy field, but in the unified field itself. And how? By virtue of the farmer practicing transcendental meditation and yogic flying, directly experiencing the unified field, the field which is the totality of all the laws of nature. By experiencing this and enlivening it in their own awareness, enlivening, another expression for it, the constitution of the universe, the total field of natural law in their own awareness, the farmer naturally grows to think and act in harmony with all the laws of nature. Another expression for that comes from the definition of agriculture. Maharshi defines as agriculture as agreeing with the culturing intelligence of nature. So that is the essential requirement for every farmer in the world. And this practice of transcendental meditation, added to the daily routine of the farmer and his family, will naturally bring them to the experience of the unified field and to being therefore in agreement always with this level, basic fundamental level of the culturing intelligence of nature that cultures not only the crops but cultures the entire universe. If a farmer does not agree with that culturing intelligence, if they violate the laws of nature, then as you sow, so shall you reap takes on a very special meaning for the farmer. They have all kinds of problems and difficulties in their own life and in the life of their crops and their cows and their trees and their flowers and so forth. So this is the first principle that Raja Conhouse brought out. Every farmer must transcend and experience the unified field and live in agreement with the culturing intelligence of the universe. The second principle he gave us is that something great can be done for the plants themselves and for the cows and for the flowers and trees and whatever the farmer is doing in the field of agriculture by use of these Vedic vibrations that Dr. Hagelin explained to us, that the fundamental laws of nature that administer everything are available in the Vedic sounds. And by the application of the Vedic sounds at specific points in the growth of the crop or in the life of the cows or in the different fields of agriculture, this sound, the sound of the Ved, creates an enlivenment of the inner intelligence in the physiology of the plant or of the animal and so forth. The total power of the intelligence that runs the universe begins to surge up and be lively in the plant and in the cow and so forth, so that the whole production is full of vitality, full of life. And when you take that into your own physiology as food, then that enlivenment of the total intelligence of the plant nourishes, brings health to, and creates enlightenment in that fortunate person who eats that food. So this is an entirely different level of food than what is being eaten so far, and the result for anyone who has tasted food like that is that this is the most delicious, the most delightful, and the most nourishing food that they have ever tasted in their lives. So all food in the world now should come onto this level, and it's easy to do through the use of the Vedic sounds in the appropriate sequence at the appropriate times, in the transformation of the seed into the sprout into the plant, and the plant into the fullness of the crop and of the fruit or whatever is being produced. So he has also pointed out a very great flaw in modern agriculture. Picking too early, freezing the food and shipping it long distances means that the food never ripens to its full taste, for one thing, which I think we've all noticed, that food doesn't taste as good when it is picked unripe and then artificially ripened or ripened after it has been picked. And as a result, also the food lacks the vitality and nourishing qualities of food that has been picked at its ripeness, at its maturity. It is also very important in the field of Maharshi Vedic organic agriculture that the farmer and the whole family of the farmer should live in buildings that are properly aligned to natural law. And the whole layout of the farm should be according to these cosmic structuring laws, the structuring intelligence of the universe, so that the farmer and his family enjoy fortune-creating housing and barns and milking sheds, and everything should be laid out exactly according to the basic principles of Stapatya Ved, Vedic architecture in harmony with natural law that designs everything to be fortune-creating and health-promoting. Another key point that came out especially today in the celebration of Akshaya Tritiya with Maharshi just before this session began is the importance of yagya, Jyotish and yagya. Jyotish is that science of understanding the cycles of time and how they relate to the beginnings, for example, when one plants the crops, when one performs the different activities, including harvesting the crops. So many different features can be specifically designed to be in accord with the sun and the moon and the planets and the stars. But also, there may be some ill fortune that comes to the farmer or to that locality, and through this knowledge of Jyotish, one can predict in advance a problem that might arise and avert it through smart and short yagyas performed by Vedic pundits that have the effect, through the use of Vedic sound, of creating a counterbalancing force to the negative force that is coming to condemn the farmer to failure, to sickness of the crop, and so forth. So here is a preventive system of farming where one could prevent any disaster from befalling the crop through this knowledge of Jyotish and Yagya. But what Maharshi said today is that he's introducing from today, as one of the new initiatives of Akshaya Tritiya, the Day of Lasting Achievements, what he called Kurma Chakra, a system of Jyotish which provides for specific predictions for, in this case, all 192 countries of the world. Kurma means a tortoise, and it means the performance of a certain kind of analysis of the birth chart or kundali of the nation that shows in which parts the nation is shown in the structure, like of the tortoise. It shows the different sections, the head, the legs, the body, and so forth. And then the Jyotishi can tell exactly in which, it's just a way of making a layout of the nation and showing in which quadrants of the nation, as it were, there would be some problem that would be faced. And the problems are defined also, Maharshi explained, in terms of the 5 elements. And these are 5 fundamental elements of nature: Prithvi, Jal, Agni, Vayu, and Akash. So the earth or physical, the Jal or fluid, water, Agni or fire, Vayu or aerial, gaseous, and Akash or spatial element. In all of these 5, it can identify through this predictive method where a danger comes. Now this is critical for a farmer. For example, Maharshi said in the area of rain, it may be that when there is an imbalance in the water element in that nation, there will be unnecessary, unwanted rains and therefore floods. And this will be very damaging to the farmer. And in the area of the air, it could be, well, that there could be, if there is an imbalance, a hurricane or other disastrous wind. So in each area, the particular danger can be predicted, and then specific performances done by the Vedic pundits to prevent that from happening. So this is the parental administration of Maharaja Nadaram, of the global country of world peace. Every person in the world, a citizen of the global country of world peace, to be protected from one place in India, at the Brahmastan of India, the center point of India, initially by 24 experts in this field. But ultimately, Maharshi, that ultimately meaning in a few months, Maharshi wants to have 16,000 Vedic pundits performing this protective act for all of the world. So this is what is required for the world just now, and Maharshi began it from today. He spoke to the Vedic pundits just today, this morning, and he set them on this task on the Day of Lasting Achievements. And Maharshi took it then finally to another level. He actually gave a definition today that of what the coming age, golden age of the human race is going to be. He gave a definition that turned out to be extremely appropriate to our subject of organic agriculture today. He said there is a great secret that is possessed by the Rajas and of any age, of Raja Ram, of ancient fame, possessed the secret of how to enliven the cosmic law, the law of the universe, to support every single citizen of their nation. And this is what is now going to happen globally, Maharshi said. And he gave an expression, I don't know if I have it quite right, but it sounded like Mange Varidhi Dehi Jal Ram Chandra Karaj. And that, he explained, means that in the Raj of Ram Chandra, of Lord Ram in the ancient times, that what actually happened is that when any one individual needed rain in their own area, rain would fall for that even one person. And it would fall also as needed for the whole society, but through the power of the cosmic law materializing the wish of that individual, what they needed for their crop would come in that society. That was the level of administration at that time. And this, Maharshi said, is the quiet, secret, heartfelt desire of the Rajaram of our age, to achieve this level of purity, which connects the society on earth with the administrator of the universe. And what that means is that any desire of anyone in the reign of Ram is seen to be connected, materialized by cosmic law, by the law of the galactic universe. Look to the sky and need rain. I need water for my crop to grow, and the rain falls just even in that specific spot for that requirement. So this is the different kind of age that is coming, in which every citizen of the global country of world peace, that is to say, every person in the world, everyone will have that joy of fulfillment of their desire. And Maharshi explained, even before they could think that they need it, as a parent provides their child winter clothing before winter comes, in exactly the same way, by virtue of this new level of administration, on the level which is called Ram Brahm Paramarat Rupa, the level of Ram administration, which is defined as the administration of Brahm, which is the totality of all the intelligence of the universe. When that starts to be the administrator of 192 nations, then this will be the level. A blissful administration, a profound modern administration, always sustained on its own cosmic dignity. This is what Maharshi said is going to happen with everything and everyone, evolving to the highest. Such a thing was not there before, because he said Ak, the knowledge of Ah and its point, infinity and its point, the infinity of silence and the infinity of dynamism, that knowledge had fallen out of fashion, had fallen out of the knowledge of the world, even to the extent that when they print the Rig Veda, they don't print Ak, he said. That was just a sign of the Kali Yuga, that now the Rig Veda and the total Veda restored as an oral tradition with this fundamental reverberation of Ah to Ka, experienced not only in the transcendental field by the enlightened of the world and by the farmers of the world, but also experienced by virtue of Vedic pundits moving about the world. Maharshi also said today that he's going to send groups of between 5 and 11 Vedic pundits to every country of the world, so everyone can have the joy of hearing these sounds. So Raja Conhouse concluded by pointing out that organic agriculture on the unused fertile land of the poorest countries of the world is the key principle for generating the wealth that is needed to eliminate poverty and give a high quality of life to every person, and especially to the poorest people of the world. And this is just the natural relationship that food, the most fundamental requirement of the human physiology, that's never going to go out of fashion, should be the source of the elimination of poverty in the world, as well as creating at the same time health and vigor and vitality and enlightenment in those fortunate people who will eat this food, these vegetables, these grains, this honey, this milk, whatever it may be. This is the new time dawning in agriculture, and it is a key point of the completely new golden age that is dawning for the whole human race today. So back to you, Dr. Hagelin.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bevan Morris, for this beautiful and profound summary. And that is it. That is a complete, total summary of what is a sunshine of knowledge in the field of agriculture. It is a peaceful revolution in the field of agriculture. It is a transformation of toxic agriculture into completely non-toxic agriculture. That is, more than that, absolutely nourishing, maximum evolutionary benefit on everyone. It is agriculture for perfect health and longevity, leading to immortality. It is agriculture for optimal brain functioning, leading to higher states of consciousness. It is agriculture bringing affluence and comfort to billions of people in the world that are currently laboring under extreme poverty. All of this accomplished through proper agriculture, which is Vedic, organic agriculture. Such a beautiful program of the global financial capital of New York. It is like an arrow in the heart of Kali Yuga, transforming the darkness of this bygone age into the full sunshine of life guided by the total evolutionary power of natural law. Heaven on earth in the language of the religions of the world. And this arrow in the heart of Kali Yuga is the fifth in a series of remarkable arrows, remarkable knowledge that has been unfolding over the course of these remarkable conferences from the global financial capital of New York, where we have talked about that extraordinary knowledge of defense, invincible defense, where the defense of any nation can become perfect, national security can become complete, and any nation, no matter how small, can rise to the level of invincibility on a completely reliable and scientific basis. We've talked about that knowledge in the field of health that brings perfect health and immortality on a scientific basis, based upon the complete knowledge and practical utilization of total natural law, unified field-based Maharshi Vedic medicine. We've talked about education for enlightenment, full development of mind, body, and behavior. Education based on total knowledge for total brain functioning, literally unfolding 100% of the potential of the human brain and bringing life spontaneously aligned with natural law for complete and spontaneous freedom from mistakes and problems, and more than that, as Dr. Morris said, the ability to activate and mobilize the infinite organizing power of the unified field of natural law to spontaneously achieve any aspiration in life, effortlessly, even by mere impulse of thought. We've talked also about the reconstruction of the entire world, demolishing dilapidated buildings that are organized in a completely haphazard fashion, that are disoriented and disorienting to the inhabitants, that have been the cause of ill health and conflict and incoherent brain functioning, lack of success and good fortune, transforming the buildings of the world to fortune-creating homes, offices, and government buildings. Another arrow in the heart of Kali Yuga, because even that program can eliminate most of the problems on Earth. Indeed, any one of these global initiatives that have been discussed so far in these conferences are really enough to transform the entire civilization from suffering to happiness, from ignorance to enlightenment, from a legacy of war and terrorism to permanent peace on Earth, a harmonious family of invincible nations. So remarkable has this knowledge been. And our next conference, this coming Wednesday, will be another bright sunshine in the darkness of this bygone age, and another remarkable arrow to dispel Kali Yuga, and that will be the elimination of global poverty, which is the fulfillment of the dream of the compassionate wise for generations, something that the existing financial entities of the world and the existing community of Wall Street and this area of New York have been unable absolutely to do and really haven't even aspired to do anymore. So concerned have these financial institutions been with risk aversion, for example, and return on investment at the expense of all the other good that can come out of a project. So this next Wednesday, we will be talking about the economic reconstruction of the world, which is fulfilling another great purpose of this global financial capital of New York. And at this forthcoming conference, the finance minister, Minister of Finance and Planning of the global country of world peace, Dr. Benjamin Feldman, will speak and share with us the remarkable, practical, scientific programs, including the global development currency, the ROM, about which we heard briefly today from Raja John Conhouse, including global organic Maharishi agricultural projects to engage the unused agricultural resources of every country and put to work those who are in need of work and bring food and nutrition and wealth to all those who are without it. These and other remarkable programs of economic renewal that are sponsored by the global financial capital of New York will be the subject of our next conference. Programs which, again by themselves, when broadly implemented, are truly sufficient to transform the nature of the age in which we live. Because so much in the world is driven by economics today. If we can bring enlightenment to the world of economics, bring economics in harmony with natural law for maximum evolutionary good to society, we will have an enlightened, healthy, peaceful, prosperous society. So that will be the subject of our next conference. And for all of this knowledge and all of these remarkable proven practical programs, all of which are simply the straightforward application of total knowledge of Ved, total knowledge of the unified field, for all this knowledge and its practical implementation for the transformation of our world, we thank Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, that absolute foremost Vedic scientist and sage, who has revived the Vedic wisdom in its purity and totality, and with it the technologies for its practical implementation in their purity and scientifically proven effectiveness. Through these programs, through these techniques, through these initiatives in these 6 areas of society, Maharishi and his global country of world peace, under the auspices of its first sovereign ruler, Maharaja Nadaram, are transforming already the destiny of nations. And very, very soon, in this year, we will really see the blossoming emergence of a whole new civilization, a unified field-based civilization, a Vedic civilization based on total knowledge and total application of total natural law to transform every area of civilization and raise it to the Vedic level of perfection. Unified field-based civilization means life everywhere in accord with natural law, where natural law, the will on earth, is lived on earth as in heaven. The realization of the aspirations of the wise in every generation finally materialized here on earth through the practical and scientific programs of the Vedic knowledge that Maharishi has blessed the world with for all these 50 years of his tireless, compassionate global efforts. So we thank Maharishi for this very much. I'd like to thank our speakers today, Dr. Bevan Morris, and particularly our keynote speaker, Raja John Conhouse, for such a beautiful and comprehensive wisdom, both profound and practical, of agriculture for a new, enlightened civilization, Maharishi Vedic agriculture. And invite you all to join us again next week, where we will consider the subject and provide the solutions to the issue of global poverty and its practical elimination. Until then, Jai Gurudev.